Most men my age think dignity is something you either still have or you've already lost, like a light switch stuck in one position. I believed that too for years. It's wrong, and believing it cost me more time than the actual problem ever did. Here's what nobody tells you. Dignity was never the thing itself. It was never one specific moment in the dark that either goes well or doesn't. That's what I thought dignity in bed meant for most of my life, and I was measuring myself against the wrong thing entirely, month after month, without ever questioning whether the measurement itself made any sense. For a long stretch, dignity wasn't even a word I'd have used to describe what was missing. I would have said frustrated or embarrassed, words that point outward at a single failure, at one specific night, rather than at anything broader or truer. It took me far longer than I'm proud of to realize the deeper thing underneath wasn't about performance at all. It was about no longer feeling in command of my own body, in any room, at any hour, not just the ones that mattered most to my wife. You've probably felt some version of that quieter, deeper loss too, the kind that doesn't announce itself as a single dramatic failure, the kind that's much harder to name because it never shows up all at once. Once I stopped measuring myself against the wrong thing, I finally went looking for something real. In a minute, I'll tell you exactly what I found, and why it turned out to be older than any pharmacy that's ever existed. What eventually helped was learning that an erection depends on three systems working together: hormonal, nervous system signal, and blood flow, governed by nitric oxide. And what surprised me most was learning that two very old, very ordinary ingredients, pomegranate and cocoa, each support that system through different pathways, and together do more than either alone. That word, dignity, kept returning to me as I learned all this, because it captured something the mechanism alone couldn't. It wasn't just about a molecule or a blood vessel. It was about no longer feeling like a passive bystander in my own body, watching decline happen to me instead of participating in something I could actually influence. These days, I have noticeably more energy and better sleep than I did during that difficult stretch. I've started teaching a small woodworking class at the senior center on Tuesday mornings, something I never would have taken on a few years back when even standing at a workbench for an hour felt like too much. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because dignity, it turns out, isn't really about one specific moment at all. It's about feeling like yourself, all day long. Two ingredients, both older than any pharmacy that's ever existed, and both backed by exactly the kind of modern research that gives old things new credibility once you actually go looking for it. Here's what reframed everything else. The blood vessels involved here are some of the smallest in your entire circulatory system, smaller than the ones feeding your heart, so circulation issues tend to show up here first. Researchers who study this treat it as a meaningful early signal. It's one of the reasons doctors who specialize in this area often say that erectile difficulty can act as an early warning sign for cardiovascular problems elsewhere in the body, sometimes showing up years before a heart problem would otherwise become obvious through any other symptom. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year, while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. So here's the old-fashioned combination: pure pomegranate extract and real cocoa extract together. Both have been used across different cultures for centuries, long before anyone understood the actual mechanism behind them. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial ran for 12 weeks specifically on sexual function in aging men, comparing a combined pomegranate and cocoa extract against a placebo. The men taking the combination showed meaningful improvements in sexual thoughts, arousal, morning erections, sleep quality, and even hand grip strength, compared to both baseline and to the placebo group. Pomegranate contributes polyphenols tied to nitric oxide production, and cocoa contributes flavonols tied to the health of the blood vessel lining directly, together, stronger than either alone. What strikes me most is that both ingredients were valued for exactly this purpose long before anyone had the science to explain why. Modern research didn't invent the idea, it just finally caught up to it. I added a few other pieces: vegetables rich in dietary nitrate, feeding the same nitric oxide pathway from a second direction. A short walk most mornings in real daylight, supporting the blood vessel lining directly. Better sleep, since a fair share of the hormonal piece rebuilds itself overnight. Less alcohol, since it undoes a fair amount of what the rest of the system builds. Dignity, it turned out, came back gradually, in the same quiet way it had left. A little more eye contact one week, a little more presence in a room the next, until one day I realized I hadn't thought about any of it in weeks. My wife and I took a long weekend trip to visit old friends we hadn't seen in years, and I was the one keeping the conversation going past midnight both nights, wide awake, present, nothing like the man who used to quietly excuse himself early. Our friends even commented on it before we left. I think about a man named Gerald who wrote in, 68, who told me he'd always dismissed anything called old-fashioned or traditional as unscientific by definition until he saw the actual 12-week trial data behind this specific combination. If you're on medication for blood pressure or your heart, please hear this clearly. Nothing here replaces your treatment, and you should never stop or change a medication on your own. Mention anything new to your doctor every time. Gerald told me the word traditional had been a dismissal in his mind for so long that he almost scrolled past the whole idea before curiosity got the better of him. He said he was glad it did, since the data behind it turned out to be more solid than plenty of things he'd trusted without question. He told me he'd gone on to actually read the full study himself afterward, something he admitted he'd never done for any health claim before in his life, always taking someone else's summary at face value. He said reading it firsthand gave him a kind of confidence in the decision that second-hand advice never quite had. What I want you to walk away with is this: dignity was never about performance. It was about feeling like myself again, in my own body, and that turned out to be something two old, ordinary ingredients could actually help restore. I think about how long I confused the two, treating a single measure of performance as the whole story, when the actual thing I'd lost was broader and quieter than that, something closer to presence than to any single outcome I could point to and measure directly. It shows up in small ways you don't necessarily connect to the larger thing at first. A little less eye contact, a little less willingness to take up space in a room, a quieter version of yourself at gatherings where you used to be more present. None of it obviously traces back to one specific cause, until you finally understand the mechanism underneath all of it, and watch those small things quietly reverse themselves, too. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. I think about the man I was, quietly losing something he didn't have the right word for. And I think about the man I am now, who found the word and found his way back to it. That's not vanity. That's dignity. For a long stretch, dignity wasn't a word I'd have used to describe what was missing. I would have said frustrated or embarrassed, words that point outward at a specific failure. It took me longer to realize the deeper thing underneath was about no longer feeling entirely in command of my own body. If you've ever felt like you'd lost something about yourself without having quite the right word for it, tell me in the comments. And if this kind of historical, grounded explanation is useful to you, subscribe. There's more of this ahead.